slowly start, and whoever comes in the meanwhile, I will welcome them. But thank you very much, all of you, for being here. Welcome to today's webinar, What are the Sustainable Development Goals and how they can affect our lives? Today, I'm very happy to introduce and welcome to our panel Agne Kuimet. And before I give the floor to her, I would like to give the opportunity to all of you, all the participants, to write in the chat, what are your expectations for today's session? I post also the question in the chat, so you have some time to reflect and write about that. And in the meanwhile, I will make a small introduction about today's session and about our speaker. And I think that we all have heard somewhere in our daily lives about the Sustainable Development Goals framework, and it's mostly more and more frequently appears in the public discourse, and that it affects our lives, and we have to take action towards this. Also, companies are putting it in their CSR policies. NGOs are taking action about this, and UN, of course, will actually introduce that framework. For some of us, the framework is very clear as we work with this in everyday life. For others, it still may confusing. For others, it's a little bit blurry. So today, especially in an institution that has pledged to take action and be a green university and be a sustainable university, it is very important to shed light on and clarify what are actually the Sustainable Development Goals and how they affect our lives. As I said also before, it is an honor that we have today with us Agne Kuimet to talk about this topic. And she represents today the Estonian Roundtable for Development Cooperation, and she is an expert on increasing agenda to 2030 that connects cooperation between civil society organizations, private sector companies, and policymakers. She is focused on advocating and communicating for sustainable development goals and global citizen education, both on the national or EU level. As the director of the national platform, she represents the Sustainable Development Goals in the Commission for the Sustainable Development at the Government Office, as well as she participates in the work of the Commission of Development Cooperation at Estonian MFA. As a national officer for International Consortium Bridge 47, she mobilizes civil society to contribute effectively to global justice and eradication of poverty through global citizens education. As you see, our speaker has done a lot of things, and I'm very happy that she is with us today. So somewhere here, I stop talking and I give the floor to you, Agne.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, the introduction was so fancy. Lovely. Thank you. Although today I am trying to be as human as possible because I'm not talking to NGOs or big companies, but like ordinary people, assumably to students. So I try to be simple. I try to be entertaining as well. And hopefully this session will be useful to you. And in any case, if you have like questions or remarks during the session, please use the chat. And I would also appreciate if you use in reactions button or raise hand button or yes and no buttons, because sometimes I ask you things, whether are you aware of this or are you aware of that? Great, Leon. Yes, exactly. So yeah, hopefully this session will be very interactive. Okay, you are total heroes for being here on Friday evening. So I hope the energy level is still okay. And if not, hopefully this energizer starting point helps. But give me a second or two. I try to share my slides. Okay, so here we are. Sustainable Development Goals. But first of all, so our agenda today, first of all, breaking some ice because it is evening, it is Friday. Yeah. Then we will move on to the real topic, which is sustainable development and sustainable development goals. And then finally, we will play some bingo. If it's okay with everyone, yeah? So let's start. First of all, the ice breaking. So imagine you have a bow tie and you have some kind of mood. It can be blue, it could be like dark, but it could be light, yellow, orange. So decide what is your mood, and that means that your bow tie will transform into this color, and write the color down to the chat. For example, I kind of feel myself maybe a bit purple because I'm kind of anxious whether this session today is going well or not. And still it's raining outside, and it's like I have mixed feelings. So I think purple is a good color for me. Yeah, green. Very, I would say green is very traditional color for this workshop, which talks about sustainability. Yeah, light blue, lightly blue. Yeah, I totally get it. Okay. Oh, medium blue. I think it's great that Erla is a little bit festive as well. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for this feedback. And even before we start with SDGs, that means Sustainable Development Goals, I would like to do a quiz. You can't play a quiz. So let's take a quiz on sustainability, on how the world is doing today, how people are doing today in our world. So the quiz is actually very simple. I have 5 questions, and each question has 3 options. It's either E, B, or C. I will ask the question, and then you have like a few seconds to think about it. Is it like in A, B, C? Okay. And then write down to the chat the option you think that is the correct answer. And then I will tell you the actual correct answer. And then maybe there is like some surprise. Maybe it's not a surprise to you. And then we can, if you have questions, we can like talk about them. So I hope everyone got the rules. 5 questions. So let's do it. So let's see how the world is doing today. Oh, yeah. So first question is about environment, about oceans. What do you think? By what year there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish, or actually everything that lives? It could be like crabs or the little guys that are living in the sea. Oh, yeah. Okay, that didn't work. Yeah, okay, that is the question. I showed you the answer, sorry.
I think that everybody got it right?
Everybody got it right. Yeah. I knew that there was something wrong. Okay, yeah, so we can pretend we didn't see the previous slide. No. So, okay, yeah. The truth is that we have less than 30 years, that if we don't like make something really smart, we are in this situation that in the oceans all over the world, there are more plastic than fish or anything that has soul and lives. But the good news is that the scientists say that, well, people are smart. If people can invent a capsule coffee machine, they will definitely invent something that turns the situation upside down. Because today we have this problem. There is no, it's not hard to, get the bottles from the sea. You just like take that off the sea. But the problem is microplastic, the little particles that are in the bottom of the seas. And basically fishes eat it, we eat the fish. So that actually this means that we have microplastic in our stomach. So definitely something to think about. And fun fact, in every minute, people around the world buy 1 million plastic bottles every minute. Okay, next question. Hopefully things will go right this time. Okay, so energy consumption and production. What do you think? What is the percentage of electricity that comes from solar and wind energy? So it's just solar and wind, no water energy, and no nuclear energy, just like 100% pure and renewable energy. So, interesting. Okay, and the truth is 2%. So we have a long way to go. Obviously, the percentages of renewable energy productions, they grow every year, but the problem is that sometimes the numbers don't reflect the truth. Like very easy question, whether the nuclear power, is it green or not? Whether the water electricity made with water power, is it clean or not? So, but still the numbers are too low. Let's accept the fact. And Estonia is not a pioneer in that area either, as we know. Okay, next one. So I try to explain it a bit. So let's gather all the people on globe, and like from the poorest to richest, or like from the richest to poorest one. So let's cut them like into two: the richest part of people and the poorest part of people. Now, what do you think? How much money? Although it's here, it says wealth, but let's say money. So how much money does the poorer, 50% of people who are poor on the poorer side, how much money they have compared to the ABC version? Alrighty, and the truth comes out now. So 8 richest people in the world are having the same amount of money. So definitely something to analyze, because in the beginning, when let's say capitalism was invented, if you can say that, the main idea behind this was that capitalism as a system gives everyone an opportunity to live well and achieve their goals. Yeah. But today, I think it's not the way that it was meant to be anymore, right? Because it tends to be that the money goes where the money already is. Yeah. So it doesn't really decrease inequalities, but rather maybe works against it, or pro inequalities, let's say. Again, something to think about when we are talking about future. And I will explain it, this system, a little bit later when I talk about SDGs, or the Sustainable Development Goals. Let's go to America. Christmas gifts. Every year we give them, we get them. And I think USA is a very good example of consumptionism, yeah. Let's keep going. Yeah, someone else? Great. And now I will really the truth. So yes, 1%. And basically, the data is from a special study. And the problem with these Christmas gifts, at least in USA, is that they are basically thrown away. Well, at least in Estonia, when some people have like stuff, they will not throw the stuff away, but give them away, or there are like this reuse recycle centers. But in USA, the situation is a bit worse. So basically, they will just throw them into the garbage container. So not a good example of consumerism either. Okay, last but not least, in the average world, in one average man has attended to school for 8 years. And by average man, I mean not a man from Europe, but a man from India, a man from Africa, and a man from Europe. So this one person is kind of presents all of the male in the world. So what about women? How equal do you think the situation in the education system is? Actually, it's so great that you are so pessimistic. I love it, because C is the wrong answer. Yeah, it's not C, no. Actually, it's A. So yay! Actually, people try to be very pessimistic about this question, but the truth is that the situation in schooling, but the problem is that basically the girls have access to education in Africa or India more than they have had in the past, and they have like similar starting point with boys, but the truth is that after, let's say, 7 or 8 or 9 years in school, they will drop out because they will either marry, they will go to work in a clothes industry, or they get pregnant, or maybe other minor reasons, but getting married or giving birth is mainly the reason why they drop out, and obviously they will never return. So basically, girls get educated for a very elementary stage, so everything is good there, but then we get problems later. And in the poorer countries or poorer societies, when people have more than one child in their family and they have boys and girls, they tend to prefer boys to educate. But slowly, again, it's getting better. So I think my point with this quiz was that the world, in some cases, is getting better, but in some cases, it's not getting better, it's getting worse. For example, when it comes to people, things tend to get better. we are healthier than ever before. People in Africa or in Asia don't die anymore because they have the health supporting system. We are more educated than ever before, but it has a very high price we have paid. Or even getting back to the electricity, actually a lot of people in the world, or even in the poorer societies, have access to electricity today, which they didn't have like 20 years ago. But again, there has been a high price for that, which I will talk about quite soon. So now we are coming to the main topic of today, sustainable development. So what it is balance, to be honest, between ecological and economical resources and human well-being. Today, when we are looking at the world or the countries, or let's say the system we are living in, how do you think, is it balanced? Do you think all three are equally important to people in governments, people in entrepreneurship, or people, I don't know, or maybe even, let's say, ordinary citizens? Maybe for ordinary citizens, they are actually all equal. But let's face it, the most important part of this triangle is economy today, right? This is that makes things like move. And here is the golden triangle of life. This is our let's say world or life on planet. We have social sphere. That means we have people, we have economy, which is let's call them systems. And we have ecology, which is the environment. Now, when we are talking about human, that we have never been that healthy or educated before. That means that in the social spheres, the developments have been basically good, right? When we are talking about ecology, the environment, well, a few years ago, very high level people from United Nations actually said it out loud that, let's face it, we don't have the planet anymore. We have used the resources. That's it. That's the final stage of the nature. And the reason why it's the final stage of nature is because of the economy. We have used the resources because we want to live well. Yeah. So we take it from the nature, we produce something because we, as people, we tend to enjoy things that are produced somehow. And actually the social sphere isn't fair enough because some people of us consume more, and some people cannot consume because they have no resources to consume, right? And maybe these people produce stuff for us who actually consume stuff. So definitely not a balance there either. And now when we are talking about sustainability is not when the environment meets society or when economy meets the society. The sustainability is when all three aspects meet. For example, if we want people to have electricity, even in poorer areas, that means that, well, basically we care about society, right? But we cannot destroy environment for that. This is something that we have done. But sustainability means that we will provide people electricity which does not harm environment and does not harm them economically. For example, in the very poorest countries in Africa, basically people kind of have access to electricity, but they have no money to buy the bulb, electric bulb or lamps, or so it doesn't matter if they kind of have somehow access to electrical system, they can never use them because they don't have enough money to use the electricity. So sorry, it's a really poor drawing, but basically when we are talking about development, then there should be social progress, there should be economic development, and yes, there should be environmental protection and enhancement. Now, there are some people who argue with this picture. Actually, I go back to a previous one. There are people who say that the economy shouldn't be like the third bubble, because economy shouldn't be like equally important. That economy should be only like a tool to achieve sustainability between society and environment. So you can agree to that or not to agree to that, but there are different opinions. But because people are people, human are human, it's obvious that there is always yearn for resources or power. So there is always need for systems. So I would say the third bubble, which is called economy on this picture, but we can also call it politics, or all kind of different systems that actually lead our everyday lives. It comes from human mind and it cannot be changed. Therefore, I think it's an adequate triangle of life. Oh, yeah, okay. So if anyone has questions about these three bubbles, you can speak up now. If not, I will go further. And I just realized that I had in Estonian the question. Sorry about that. So the question is, what are sustainable development goals? So hands up, who has heard about sustainable development goals? Anybody? Can anyone actually say that, yes, I know what they are? I definitely know what they are. And my colleague Sale cannot raise the hand because I know she knows.
Can I? I think we all know the Sustainable Development Goals. They're pretty norm. But what is interesting is that there are a lot of discrepancies once we address the concept of green economy. That I was just basically surprised when we were conducting one project in one of the South Caucasus countries. And the understanding of green economy was not totally different from what you have in Brussels, for example. While sustainable development is actually makes consensus, but green economy doesn't. So would you comment on it?
No. The Sustainable Development Goals do not have consensus. Don't worry about that. No.
Okay.
It's too difficult. So, so I will explain a bit. So a few years ago, or maybe 10 years ago, actually governments or high-level political people said out loud that, okay, basically, yes, we are facing the problem. We don't have the planet for any longer. If we could continue to develop our life how we have developed it so far, that means systems based. And okay, we should do something about it because the inequality between different countries, or let's say different societies, is too big to continue like that. Like the difference between rich countries, or the gap between rich countries and poor countries, it's huge. Poverty is huge. And richer people didn't deny that basically it's our fault that there is such a huge inequality in the world. Yes, we are responsible. Yes, we should do something about it. And yes, we should develop our societies and our economies different than we have up to date. So 2015 in United Nations, a hugely important document was signed, which is called Agenda 2030. You can later Google it, or obviously you get the slides where the link is. This is a big political document that says that, okay, all of us, all the countries in the UN, we will now develop our societies and our states based on sustainable development goals. That means that we will do no harm to other societies. We will help other societies to, let's say, get out of the holes, of poverty. We will not leave anybody behind anymore in the development. And we try to be more equal in the future as countries, as societies, as people, and so on and so on. This Agenda 2030 document has 17 global sustainable development goals, which are called SDGs. And they are targeted, they are meant basically for everybody, for ordinary people to behave more sustainable, for countries, for states, for European Union, for municipalities, for organizations, especially for entrepreneurs, for everybody to, let's say, make corrections in their lives or in their actions to be more sustainable in the future. So how do the SDGs look like? Yay, here they are. 17 of them, and I will introduce them to you more properly. I just have to make one remark that Estonia has added one SDG. It's number 18. And basically it's called sustainability of our culture and language. It's not unofficially a real SDG, but this is something that Estonian politicians want to use and try to use as much as possible because of our national strategies and our national goals as a republic. But basically there are 17. And these 17 lovely, colorful squares or boxes, however you like them to see, they cover the triangle of life. They cover people, they cover economy, and they cover ecology. Yeah, the nature, the environment. So let's start. Obviously, I cannot introduce them thoroughly to you because we would spend 5 hours together, but at least a little bit is better than nothing. So let's try. So SDG number 1, it means no poverty. This means that UN, the countries in the UN decided that the big gaps between societies or the countries should be reduced, and actually the poverty inside our countries should be reduced also. So there are a lot of sub-targets under SDGs, but no poverty means that basically the world or the overall society, we have the resources, but we have to look where the obstacles are, why some people don't get their hands on the resources. And some people maybe, or some societies try to grab all the resources to themselves. So basically, It's not that legal anymore after the year 2015, but it's arguable whether it's doable or not, whether it's possible to reduce the poverty between the societies or in the societies. But at least this is something that all countries have to do, because this is the goal number 1. Goal number 2 is zero hunger. Actually, this is an interesting one, because I think the zero hunger is not really good capture for this SDG. This SDG number 2 means that everyone should have access to quality food. Obviously, there are societies or countries who are dealing with real hunger, but there are countries and societies who officially do not face the hunger, but then again, they don't face the quality food either. So basically, they get food, but they don't get the nourishment, right? Hopefully, you understand what I mean. And this goes even for countries who are actually doing fine, like, for example, Estonia. We don't face hunger in Estonia, but for example, we face the fact here that in schools or kindergartens, we don't get to eat Estonian food. We get to eat like Polish apples, and so the number SDG 2 covers also the accessibility of local food or ecologically clean or pure food. Now, number 3 is good health and well-being. Well, let's say we definitely have inequalities here. There are countries who have outstanding well-being systems, and then we have poor countries who are struggling with very basic health issues, like countries in Africa. So the goal is to reduce the inequalities in the health situation around the world, but also to make the situation better in all countries, inside the countries. For example, in Estonia, one of the major problem is that Estonian men, tend to die way sooner than women, and we have to deal with that, with the problem and how we can rise the living years of male people, for example. And other thing is a big issue in richer countries is mental health. Yeah, we are rich, we are doing fine, but actually people in Europe or in United States have a really poor mental health, and we are struggling with depression and dementia and all kind of mental illnesses. So definitely something to focus on when you are well-doing country who is doing well, or richer country, or well-developed country. Now let's move on to number 4, quality education. This is something that actually has gone better during, let's say, past 20 years, as I mentioned before in the quiz, but still we have a lot to do. For example, in Estonia, we have a situation, we have a good educational system. PISA tests give us like really beautiful numbers every year. But for example, in Estonia, people are really poor at global knowledge. Estonian people don't really get global education. So they don't really understand on how is the world, how the world is functioning, why things today are the way they are, how things are connected, how countries are connected, why the politics is the way it is. So a big gap in people's knowledge in Estonia is global education, which is a SDG sub-target number 7 to grant access to global education for all people in all ages and in all educational stages, basically from kindergarten to old people. Now, let's move on. Again, a social SDGs, gender equality. This is something that that's an interesting SDG, because usually when I introduce this one to, let's say, ordinary people, they don't think this SDG is relevant or important enough to, to exist. But obviously, this is not true. Gender equality is a problem in Estonia. Gender equality is a problem in not only in Eastern Europe, but in Western Europe still as well. And there are big gaps between genders. So let's say that this was about social sphere of human development. And now we move on to environment and environmental issues. Number 6, clean water and sanitation. Few years ago, when I started to do these trainings, this clean water situation was a bit more different, because water as such, everybody felt that this is something that, it's always there, it's always accessible. But today, now that we have faced some climate changes, let's say, the situation has turned. For example, in Australia, during the day, you don't get the water from, what's it called? Yeah. Kraanid. No, oh well. There in Australia, in some cities, they will turn off the water in houses. Someone has a comment. Yeah, thank you, Tap. So if you live in Australia and you are not in the office during the day, but at home, you don't get the tap water, because it's the taps are closed, because there is not enough water in these areas anymore. The clean water reduces every year. We have less and less and less clean water. We are doing quite okay in a sanitation, because there are a lot of improvements, like in African countries, they are building sanitation systems and so on. But the pure drinkable water is an issue today, and we have to prevent for clean water to disappear. So we have to do something about it. 7th one is electricity. So that means not only clean energy, but affordable energy. That means we are quite far from the goal today, because even here in Europe, we witness the situation that if we choose clean energy, we have like different energy packages, right? As a consumptioners, yeah, we can choose. And clean energy is always something that is more expensive. Now the goal is to make electricity affordable for everyone, and clean electricity to be affordable. So that means that, well, actually the goal is to have 0% of no clean energy. But as we know, there is a lot of coal, there is a lot of shale oil mining in Eastern Europe. So basically we have to try to figure it out, how to make all our power 100% clean. It's not an easy task, but at least we have to try. Now, decent work and economical growth, number 8. This is something that is also debatable, because economic growth and SDGs, it could be, let's say, oxymoron, yeah, that actually economical growth cannot be a goal, because then basically nothing will change. Well, the reason behind this is it was not an easy, sorry, I will check the chat. Oh, okay. Oh. It's not an easy thing to decide that, okay, no more economical growth. I think the societies will go crazy. This is not something that we can do. So out of diplomacy, it was decided that we should focus on these societies who are very poor today, and we try to make it possible for them to have the economical growth. But in some time, obviously, we can't lose our own growth either. So it's a tricky one. But the consensus was that, okay, let's help the societies who have who are left behind, and let's help them to achieve their economical growth, which means also that they will get access to decent work. By decent work is meant, decent work means that people work and they will get paid for it. And they will get paid for it with the amount of money that is fair. For example, if person gets paid €1 per month, and that means that, well, it's not a decent payment, right? Everybody knows that. But actually, there are a lot of societies where people get paid €1 per month. And this is a situation that has to be changed, because these people get €1 a month as a salary, and but we as consumers, we have paid €100 maybe for this device or this shirt or whatever it is. So there is a good amount of money that kind of disappears somewhere in the way. Now, the point of the SDG is to find out where the money is disappearing and try to rebuild the system that the person who does the work gets decent payment for it. Number 9 is industry, innovation, and infrastructure. This means that basically in the poorer countries, there is no industry or infrastructure, and definitely no innovation. And we, as richer countries, we should provide all the tools for poorer societies or for poorer countries to build up their industry and the innovation and infrastructure. And maybe a good example here is Estonia with its ET knowledge and capacity. We always consider as an IT country. For example, Estonia is doing a lot of IT projects in Africa to help to build up the IT or the digital infrastructure, which is lacking today in many countries in Africa. Now, number 10, reduced inequalities. This means, again, it goes a bit to the no poverty SDG, but basically there should be no inequalities between countries, between societies, and between municipalities, and so on and so on. So reducing inequalities is something that every country or every municipality has to face. Number 11 is sustainable cities and communities. Actually, this is a really obvious one, and so something that at least in Estonia, people they love this SDG, because basically it says that it doesn't matter if you are a city or a village, if you are small or big, you have to be sustainable. That means you have to like use green energy, you have to take care of your people, you have to have a really good system for recycling, and so on and so on. And this is something that all municipalities will, they try to do, but sometimes they don't have enough knowledge to do. So this is something that every single person who lives somewhere, it doesn't matter where you live, but if you live somewhere, it's your chance to give your hand to these developments to make your own home more sustainable. Number 12 is responsible consumption and production. Yes, well, we can say this is the key SDGs, isn't it? Because if there would be no harmful production in the world, well, the nature would be left, right? We still would have the trees and clean environment, which we don't have today. For example, in Asia, in the areas where people produce the clothes we are wearing, their rivers, the water doesn't flow anymore. The water in these rivers is more like a jelly, wobbly thing, because it's so polluted, because making clothes is really, really polluting thing. So now the countries decided, okay, we will not produce. Okay, they didn't not decide that we will not produce that much anymore, but they decided that in the future we will produce stuff from materials that are already there. So basically, we will reuse the materials. We don't take it from the ground anymore. So we don't take it from the nature anymore, but we try to produce stuff from stuff that are already produced. It's quite arguable, and I know it's a kinky one, because people do not like to consume less. There was the study in basically in Western Europe, where ordinary people were asked that, do you think it's the polluting and consumption is the situation in consumption is really bad? Everyone say, yeah, it's awful how people are. Yeah, it's just awful how people are consuming. It's like too much, and so. And then they were said, okay, but what are you? If you had a chance, what do you decrease from your, let's say, your everyday consumption? Are you willing to give up your car? Are you willing to give up your tradition to buy clothes for every new season? And people say, no, of course not. No, never. I will not live without my car ever. So I could say that people, they know that it's bad to this kind of consumption is bad, but people don't know really yet how to reduce it. And it's kind of task for us all to maybe teach ourselves, but teach our friends and families and so on, what it means, what is responsible consumption. And for entrepreneurs, this is something that they already have started to work with. You know, there is green cosmetics and ecological clothes and all kind of new products in the market who and they say that, yes, buy this one, it's clean, it's carbon neutral, it's so ecological, it does not do any harm for environment and or your skin. But the truth is the production has not reduced, and we still consume stuff. So the problem is still here. The main task is to reduce the consumption and production. So we are still not even on a halfway. Now, number 13 is climate action. That means that we all have to act, because the climate changes is something that happens every day. The tragedy of this is that not all societies feel the climate changes. Basically, like in Estonia, it's like, okay, not that much snow anymore in the winter, but this is a good thing, right? Well, no, not really. It's a bad thing. But for example, in Africa, the temperature is so high that people have to move from their homes because there is no chance they can live there anymore, because the environment is not livable, if it's a word. And this one story I love to tell to people is that there is actually a study, and with the, oh, my cat is meowing, sorry. There is the study that the black scenario with the climate is that in 50 years from now on, the Central Europe will be a desert. And for example, people from Germany and Netherlands and France, they have to move because their homes are deserts. It's too hot to live there, nothing grows there. So basically they will move to north, like to Estonia, for example, because the climate is still okay here. And this story always makes people like, what? The Germans are coming? And actually, this is something that we are facing. But maybe not all of us are buying this idea. We don't believe the situation is so bad, but unfortunately it is. Like, for example, wine from Bordeaux, it's going to be a really unique thing to consume, because in 10 years, maybe the vineyards do not grow anymore in Bordeaux area because it's too hot there. Yes, basically, yes, Baltics became a new Mediterranean. Yes, exactly. Oh. Let's move on. Life below water. Well, there is no mystery, no surprise there that our oceans are super polluted. Now we have to figure it out, how to make the life below water like clean again, or because all the fish that is living in the sea, well, we can say goodbye to these lovely fishes in 10 years because they will die out. The oceans are not suitable for living creatures anymore. They're just too polluted. And same thing goes on life on land. We have no, let's say, resources anymore. We have taken out all we have. So now the question is how we put life back on land. Seaspiracy, yes, Merle. So how do we put life back on land? Scientists today are actually doing something really lovely. They try to make the areas that are deserted, they are making these areas blooming again. So somehow it's possible to rebuild a natural environment. If obviously, if you don't harm it with your producing or whatever you do in the future. But basically, it's important to make life on land blooming again. And this is something that, well, that's a goal for all countries, to make life on land Yeah, great again. And oh yes, okay. Lot of comments. Kiss the ground as well. Yes, yes. Kiss the ground at 8. Yes, exactly. Lovely. Thank you. Thank you for that remark. Okay, I will go on. And now we have two last but not least SDGs, and they are the most complicated ones. Number 16, that means peace, justice, and strong institutions. Basically, this means democracy. This means no corruption. This means strong democratic countries and unions. And obviously, yeah, peace, so no wars. But actually, what makes people to fight with each other? Resources, right? Unequal systems. So number 16 means that we have to take all the SDGs into consideration and make sure that there will be at least a little bit more peace on the planet than there is today. And number 17, it's partnerships for the goals. Basically, this means that all countries should have to, no, not should, but they actually have to work together to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by the year 2030. Otherwise, well, we don't achieve these goals. The bad news is that we have spent almost 5 years by now, yeah? Because the SDGs the document was signed in 2015. I think we all have to agree that we have lost already 5 years. No countries have actually done that much in the area of SDGs as they have promised. Not even Norway, not even Sweden, not even Germany. So the tragedy is that we don't really have the mechanisms yet how to implement these SDGs as countries. It's so much easier for ordinary people. It's so much easier even for entrepreneurs because, well, you change your production systems because the audience, aka buyers, ask for better products or cleaner products or better solutions. But it's so much harder for governments to do it because basically we are all fighting. We're still fighting for over resources. Like European Union is fighting for resources. USA is fighting for resources. Africa is fighting for resources. So we don't have the system or even I don't think we have the right narrative yet for the real partnerships or the real tools for SDGs, or let's say, I'm not sure we have real will to achieve sustainable development goals as countries or as societies yet. Okay, so here you see all these SDGs are divided into 3, to people, environment, and economy. So no surprises here. And all SDGs are connected to each other. So basically, we cannot say that, for example, climate change is an environmental issue. It's not. It's a social issue and it's an economical issue. Like sustainable cities, it's not an environmental issue. It's a social issue and economical issue. So it's arguable, but basically they are divided into 3. And as one lovely person said to me during a training on SDGs, that it's so wrong to even divide into 3. It's so wrong to divide these topics into 17 SDGs because basically there is only one only one topic or one issue, which is life, and the 3 teams or the topic should not be invited at all. They are all connected, that means they are basically or one big issue. So there are so many obstacles for achieving SDGs, and I have called them can't do and don't want to, basically. There is not enough knowledge how to be more sustainable, how to make people not to desire the life they have used to living. Because people kind of, majority of people don't want to change. Obviously, entrepreneurs don't want to change because they don't want to give away their money. And people don't want to, and they don't know how to. For example, there was a study in Estonia on sustainability, and people answered that, yes, I know that I should eat ecological food, and I should recycle, and I should consume less, and so on and so on. But then people said that they have obstacles to do that. First of all, sustainable consumption is so expensive. They do not have the opportunity to eat clean food, and so on. And second of all, their environment doesn't support it. So if a little person wants to be super sustainable, it's very hard for her or him because the environment she or he lives in doesn't really support becoming totally sustainable or totally green. So there is no opportunity, even if you want to. And there is no motivation if you are, let's say, if you're an entrepreneur and you are doing very good. You don't have the motivation to become maybe less less successful in financial ways. And it takes a lot of courage to become sustainable as an entrepreneur or as a country, because basically, let's say France, President Macron wanted to get rid of diesel, yeah. So they decreased the price of diesel, and people went nuts about it. They came to streets. There was like a huge rebellion against that. So basically, politicians don't want to make decisions that are unpopular because they will lose votes. And for example, if one political party says, no, we will not make our economy as number one anymore. We decide that the economy is not that important anymore, and we will focus on people's health and environment. Well, I'm not sure that after the election, this political party will be a prime minister's party. So I think decision makers are a bit afraid because they don't know what these kind of huge decisions, what they bring with themselves. So it's kind of a gray area for not only politicians, but for all of us, for people as well. So I would like you to talk for a bit, so I can drink my tea. And I would like to have an open discussion on this SDG as a framework. So you can like say out your opinion. Do you think that the SDGs as a framework, as this system with 17 goals, with their sub-goals or sub-targets, is this relevant? What do you think as a citizen or as a, I don't know, maybe NGO worker, or maybe there are entrepreneurs here? Does this picture make sense to you? I would love to have a discussion on that. Or is maybe you think that there is something missing from the picture. Like, for example, Estonia found out that our culture preserving our cultural environment is missing from the picture, and they added the 17th. There are some countries who found out that, but actually the universe or everything, the environment, which is not on Earth, but everywhere else, the cosmos, is missing out. So a few countries have added an 18th SDG, like, I don't know, life in universe, how to preserve a balance in universe, or how not to harm universe. So have you found something interesting you want to share with us? There's something in the chat box. Yes, Justine, actually, you have a good point. It's a good starting point. Exactly. There are so many faults in the system, but there is a reason why the picture is the way it is today. These 17 SDGs, well, there was a huge debate on this issue, huge. And people there were some aspects taken out from the picture and some aspects putting in. There were a lot of countries who were against putting education in. There were a lot of countries who were against democracy. That's why democracy is not an SDG itself, but it's combined. So the countries, there was a fight on these issues. So basically, the picture you saw, it's consensus. It's not ideal picture, but it's consensus. The best that came out from this on that moment in a year 2015. Yeah, Lazy Person's Guide to Saving the World. Basically, yes, but actually less lazy people will open the Agenda 2030 because all the subtasks or sub goals they are pretty well. It has nothing to do with laziness, but I absolutely agree with you. If I'm a lazy person, I will say, oh, I love that picture. So because I'm eating, let's say I'm not a vegan, but let's say I'm a vegan. So it's like, if I'm a vegan, okay, SDG 12, check. Okay. So you can look at the picture in an easy way, but then you can dig in and it's so much harder. So, but I definitely recommend for you to read the document. It's a bit bureaucratic because it's a political document, but it has a really good points there. And it's not that hard reading. There are so many more awful documents we have to read every day. And I think it's still a good reading. But still, I would like someone to speak up. Okay.
I think Leon has raised his hand.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly. Hello, everybody. I find this topic very interesting and very relevant in a way of different kind of topics and problems that we are facing. But I think like the main problem, as Justine said, like it's exactly what is missing, like concrete examples and like guidance what to do. And I think also one of the big problems, as you, Agnes said, is also this knowledge, opportunity, motivation, and courage. I think it should be kind of individual. If we don't see like, okay, we had something, some guidelines we should follow, it doesn't really work. I think everybody has to be responsible for themselves and start for their own opportunities and possibility at their own place and where their life they are. So I think like it's very important to stay motivated and to get educated as well. For me, this is very inspirational today. That's what we are doing and very educational. And of course, to take courage, you know, to make some decisions like on daily basis. And I think it's very the whole concept of sustainability is very relevant, but it's like, are we doing enough? I think these are the questions we should ask each other, like, and ourselves first. And if not, what can I do? And like, what are the ways to find ways? At least for me, I'm trying to find and educate myself more and really to make some personal decisions that they can help increasing these goals that are written by somebody who is obviously doesn't do enough, but then I'm okay, I'm gonna do it my best and I'm gonna try to talk with my friends, with my family, and to get like webinars like this. So I'm very grateful to be here today.
Great, thank you. Yeah, actually, in this matter, like little people have quite huge power. For example, I know, I will just use something. Yeah, okay, let's say it's some kind of plastic thing, you know, useless plastic thing that is produced in China, and people buy it. And Chinese producers say, "Ooh, okay, people buy it. Let's make them more." Yeah. So, what if we decide not to buy this plastic thingy anymore? Let's not do that. Then production people in China will see, oh, people don't buy this plastic shit anymore. Okay, so what now? What should we do now? Okay, so basically, people have power if there is enough people to say, okay, this is it, no more plastic. So it's a good point that education is important. Talking to people is important. And as long as people don't demand the change, I don't think the politicians or entrepreneurs, they don't have the motivation to change. But if there is enough demand, then things will start happening. Okay, so Merle has a comment that these are useful guidelines, obviously. They also include impact measurement, which give even more detailed feedback to countries. Yes. Actually, I would like to comment the measuring. Actually, countries, the states who are in the UN, they measure every year or every 2 years on how they have, which steps they have taken into implementing SDGs and how are they doing. And Estonia has done it twice by now. And well, the first report, it was very pink. I mean, very pink. They reported basically only the things that there was like this traffic light system, green, yellow, and red. So there were topics that were green, that yay, everything was fine. There was some things were in yellow that we had to work with, and then some things were in red. For example, in Estonia, there was energy producing because of the shale oil, was totally red. And then what was gender equality was red, but everything else was lovely green. The second report, which was launched quite recently, actually, this was very adequate one. There was a lot of green lights, and but not that many anymore. There was a lot of yellow and a lot of red lights. So that showed that the situation more adequately, I would say. We go less green every year. The nature, the environment was green, but not anymore because of the chopping down the trees, yeah, which is a huge problem today. And basically we had the water situation green, but the water situation is, let's say, yellowish today because we have issues with the clean water in our rural areas. So basically, yes, countries are reporting and bringing out the best solutions or good ideas. And this is actually, they are good reports. And Estonian one is found through Google. Actually, if we will send you the slides afterwards. Actually, I will I will send the report as well, because actually it's a good reading. It's very human language and not very bureaucratic as they usually tend to be. So, okay, let's agree. I will send you this document as well. And now the pandemic. Yes. The pandemic has decreased the motivation very much. So even these countries who actually worked hard with SDGs have paused all the work on that area and are focusing on health and economy. So let's hope for better times.
May I add also something?
Yes.
If you allow me. Well, thank you very much. Until here is great. Thank you for bringing all these insights. And I would say that the good thing that SDGs actually brought is to have the same narrative all over the world about what we mean when we talk about gender equality, what we mean when we talk about climate action, no poverty, and so on. You mentioned also the pandemic, and from the one hand, I was very happy, I mean, last year, because now the situation is a little bit different all over the world, when actually all the countries got together and they decided that they have to take some action and put some measurements and some restrictions into order in order to protect. That is my personal opinion. That is not only about the health, but is also for the economy and the market, what we can do to save the market. Of course, the people as well, but also the market. And I was thinking last year, why we don't do the same thing to actually save the environment. And one of my personal thoughts regarding this is that the narrative and the values that we have there, as you mentioned, also capitalism, are not associating that is equally important to save the environment at this point, because it's so far away and maybe they will have losses. So I think it's very related how much effort and energy we put into the environment according to how much loss or benefit or profit we will have. And another thing that I might see that affects how we respond to SDGs is how this document has come out as a directive or as something that all the countries are forced to do it. They're not forced to, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they decide that they would be happy to do so. But at the same time, if they don't make it, nothing happened. I say it very simplistic way, but in a way that is not a strong directive. I'm coming from Greece, for instance, and we had a lot of agreements and situations coming from EU the last decade regarding economy, that if you didn't actually make these goals, then there will be punishments. For SDGs, this doesn't apply. And one last thing, and I give you again the floor. It's great that we all try to do some things. As I shared also the lazy guide, and throughout the Green Month, we have the form from Tallinn University Green Heroes, when there is a list of activities and you can see what you actually do in your everyday life from different sectors. And also you can see for things that you don't do, but you can potentially do and have an impact. And I will share the link also in the chat. But besides that, yes, you do a lot. And sometimes it's frustrating when you say that the governments don't take action and the people who are like the big fish don't take action. But it's very important as well that all of us do. It's again a capitalistic thing to put the value that you are responsible for your own choices, you are responsible for your own future, and you're responsible for the opportunities or not that you take. That's
Totally, I agree. Just want to add that because of the pandemic, I think we're living very interesting times. I think this is a point where everything can change to the better. Yeah. If we only lead it to the right direction. Okay, are you ready to bingo? Actually, I love the lazy, how did you say it? Lazy man's.
Lazy guide to save the world.
Lazy guide to save the world. Now we can have the lazy game. Okay, so I'm sure you all of you know how to bingo, right? It's not exactly like bingo, but almost like a bingo. So basically, look at the picture, look at the lazy guide, and pick up SDGs that you feel like that you are related to, or maybe if you are a NGO worker, you can already say that, yes, I intensively work for, let's say, SDG number 9 because of my professional life. So basically, pick a SDG. Try to bingo. How many bingos do you get? Do you get 17 of them? Do you get 1 of them? Do you get 0 of them? Or maybe, just maybe, you get a negative bingo. And by negative bingo, I mean that maybe you work somewhere and you do something that maybe you, I don't know, produce something that you know that it's basically harmful for environment or economy. And actually you have a negative impact to some area. It's okay to reflect that, and it's okay to say this out loud as well, because in the trainings that I have held all around Estonia, people are actually said that they have a negative handprint, on so many SDGs, because they harm the water system, because they have they use harsh chemicals at home, for example, or that they use harsh chemicals because they like in their greenhouses, yes. So actually they acknowledge that they do harm to the environment. So it's also have this negative bingo, just to, to see where you are in the picture. What are your negative negative impacts toward the world? And I will just, as example, I will give you my story or my view. So when I'm at work, I think in the office, I have some impact on SDG 4 and 17. And SDG 4, because like today, I'm doing the training for you. You gain knowledge. So actually, that's an education, yeah. And actually, this is a global education you are getting today. So it's I'm targeting SDG 4.7. Yay! Not that it's important, but just to showcase to you. And number 17, because my organization is involved in so many projects with other EU countries or globally other countries as well. And we work together in the area of SDGs. So I would say international cooperation for achieving the targets. At home, I try to be as good as possible at SDG 12. So I try to buy my clothes from secondhand stores, and I try to consume as responsible as possible. Sometimes it's not possible, but sometimes it is. At least I'm giving my best. And in school, well, today I'm not in school anymore, but I was at Tallinn University. I did the master's degree on civil society. And since I was studying leadership in Estonian civil society, then I feel that I gave myself to the SDG 16, which is strong institutions. That it's a small step, but at least I gave something to this SDG because of my study in the field of CSOs and leadership of CSOs. So they may not be huge handprints, but it doesn't matter. At least I have some. So now if you take a look at the bingo card, I want you to have like 3 minutes for individual reflection. if you want to pick SDGs, which one would you pick? And then why? If there are any teachers here today, well, then it's obvious. It's number 4. I don't know if there are any university lecturers here today or not, but
I actually used to be one, and
well,
yeah, I used to teach at Tartu University, and I was running from 2012 to 2015. I was running a program which was called EU Energy and Climate Policies. And I will tell you that, well, we had 2 basically straps, and they were paid by the European Commission Jean Monnet program. And we had 2 subsections, let's say like this, one on energy security and markets, and another on climate change. And my observation was that for energy security and markets, we usually got around 20-25 students, and the climate we usually got between 5 and 7, and the interest in the subject was so low. So at some point towards 2015, I even proposed to abandon it, because I mean there were no really like zero interest. Even more funny, at some point we basically Jean Monnet modules also like imply that you invite important personalities, policymakers, business people, and we were quite successful in that. And one of the personalities came, one of the political persons, he came and he said very clearly, you know, like something like, we have to fill our waters, and waters don't care of climate change. Hence, I cannot care of climate change. And he was so explicit, so it was so funny to see or to hear. At the same time, since then, I see that actually there is a huge change, that almost everybody is interested in the subject. That is one of the reasons why I wanted to see what's going on within this activity of the Green Month, because I feel that compared to the period between 2012-2015, there is a striking difference. Because at that time I was pretty convinced that actually the subject will never work in the Baltics, but it seems to be changing, and it's quite interesting to observe the trend.
Okay, that's good example. Thank you. Lovely. Thank you. Really. Oh, that's so nice. Okay, does someone else want to share? I really would like to have like proper bingo so everybody could say something. So maybe I can use Katerina's help for that, for selecting out people.
Oh, the difficult task to me. I'm
Yes.
thinking that maybe people can just raise hands and I can delegate if it's possible. So yeah, some of the people that have been already in my event so far, yes, I delegate people, but I give the freedom so you can do it with your will first.
Yeah, that would be lovely. And the good thing about this game is that there are no wrong answers, right?
I can continue.
Yeah, lovely.
So, if I understood correctly, I should comment how do I relate with all of them, or at least
no, just pick
some of them?
a few most relevant to you personally. Usually people admit that usually people pick like 2 because we are just people, you know, we cannot change the world. We have limited resources. So if you just pick like 1 or 2, it's fine. Or if you feel that you are committed to all of them are really important to you and they relate, then just tell us why. But there have been like really surprising answers from my previous trainings. Like people have chosen the life below water because like they work on boats, and there are so many interesting stories behind the SDGs they have picked, because we are all different. We have
that is what I was worried about, that if I start talking for a while, maybe climate action, life below water, life on land, and well, the last line, the 13 from 17 is the other. We have the weakest relation to me, but the other ones I could relate, like no poverty. I mean, together with zero hunger, I could say that if I share my food, my leftovers, I'm committed to that also. Good health and well-being, participating, organizing well-being events, quality education. I'm a bit related to the education system, helping to improve the quality of education. Gender equality, I tell and I use myself the option of not specifying my gender while sending out the CV in a competition to applying to some job position. Clean water and sanitation. We use filter, big water filter at home, and I do feel empathy and sympathy for the people and who don't have a clean water, and I don't buy bottled water anymore. Like I have given up buying bottled water. Affordable and clean energy. Well, maybe also not so related to me. Decent work and economic growth, interest in innovation. Now, interest in innovation and the infrastructure, I've been working in industry, telecommunication section, so helping to reduce the waste in telecommunication industry has been one of my tasks. Reduced inequalities, to inform people about their rights to reduce the inequalities. That has been one of my tasks. Sustainable cities and communities, using public transportation more, walking more, cycling more, bicycling more, and using less car in last, I don't know, maybe 10 years. Responsible consumption. I always follow the principle not to buy single packed things and buy in bulks, and that was, yeah, a lot of stories. As you said, the last time we were shopping for cosmetic, home domestic cosmetic things, that was awful sight, and I was about to take a picture about it, and I was thinking about Katerina and Greenman, that because everyone uses their own deodorant, and okay, we can make 1 or 2 months with one deodorant, but if you have like a 3 or 5 people family and you buy 5 deodorant roll-ons, and then you buy a shampoo and a conditioner, and then you buy hand lotion and dishwashing liquid and hand washing liquid all together, and the fabric softener, and then fabric washing liquid, it's all together like awful how much of waste and in the form of single packaging we do buy, and responsible consumption should be like, I buy, how do I buy the roll-on deodorant in the bulk?
Yeah,
I can
the
buy a
environment
fabric
doesn't support you, right? At all.
Yeah, I can buy a fabric softener like 2 or 3 liters in a bottle, and not the like 500 milliliters, and that's already a step towards the goal to reduce the waste and being a responsible consumer, and therefore influence the production principles.
Yeah,
but there are some things that okay, so
well, thank you. That was yeah, I think yeah, it was a good story, and it clearly shows on basically we as consumers, life is so hard for us, you know, to make we try to make the right decisions, because you cannot, or even if you decide, okay, I will buy my stuff in the bulk from now on, and I only will use my packages, then the bookstore, it's so far from me, you know, that I have to like drive there, or, you know, there are so many obstacles to finally get the sustainable product my way to the store and back. It's not the easiest. Or for example, when people decide that they will eat clean, they have to, like, if I go shopping, I want to go to one store and buy all my stuff there and then go home. I don't want to go 5 different stores, because one store has this one thing I want to, and the other store has this ecological, I don't know, bananas, which the first store doesn't have. So basically, this process is a bit complicated for people, right? What comes to sustainable consumption, at least. It's not easy target at all. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Who else wants to share?
I think Anu wrote something in the chat that maybe you would like to explain more, Anu?
Yes, please.
Hello. Practically, I'm leading 2 very nice and sustainable projects, and I'm interested to connect the projects and raise awareness of the SDGs as well, but I'm not so sure how to do it. So I think that if I just stick the logos of the SDGs that I see are mostly connected to each of the project is not enough, how to go more in depth with the subject.
Yes, I agree. Putting the logos on website or printouts, it's something that many big companies do in their communication, but it doesn't really mirror the truth. It's a communicational thing, but it's okay to do it. For example, my organization, we try to put the SDG logos on everything we do, just because it's also promoting them. It's one way to promote them. It's one way to maybe gain some interest in people, because people will look at the picture. What is this red thingy up there in the corner? Oh, SDG, something. Okay, and maybe it will get them interested. So let's say it's the minimum thing to do, but it's a good thing to do. But if you want to, let's say, integrate your projects or your work with SDGs like thoroughly, when write to me, because we can consult you with Aku, my organization. Or in Estonia, there are other companies as well who actually are able to consult on how to integrate SDGs into your strategies. We in Aku, we consult mostly NGOs, because we work in NGO world, But for example, in the private sector of Estonia, there is one lovely consultancy called Sustinere. And they actually consult big and small enterprises on how really like in depth to be sustainable. So how to be sustainable strategically and not just communicate about them. So if you're struggling, that's okay. Just ask for help.
Okay, I will write you later on. Thank you.
Yes, great. Yay, practical use for this training. Well, we have some 10 minutes at least. So if you have questions, it doesn't have to be the bingo game. It could be some questions about something.
Well, if I can just continue this conversation, it's very interesting. At the same time, don't you feel that actually this approach tends to overemphasize the consumption control? At the end of the day, it's not the consumption side and practically not the most developed countries' consumption side, which affects anyhow the environmental situation in the world, and kind of like making people feeling bad because they overuse something, or other producers who earn money on something. It seems to be kind of like just reincarnation of earlier ideas of 20th century, including command economy models, which are based actually on the consumption control, on the quota per family of product. Everybody who lived under the Soviet or communist systems, they know what I'm talking about. And that seems to be quite an extreme. Instead, I feel that actually not enough of efforts are done where the potential exists, and that potential is in the developing world, is in international cooperation. Instead of let's say restricting the economic development here, we could spend more on positive international cooperation. But I would like to hear your opinions about it. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope I got it right, because it was slightly, I had some sounding issues, but I think I got your question. Well, actually, yeah, the consumption, it's a super interesting topic, because basically what we have learned so far, that people don't want to consume less, but they want to consume better, right? Which is actually against the very the basic idea that actually we should consume less, but at least right now it's not impossible, because we are people. And there was this one cynical participant of one of our workshop. He said that younger generations, our children, are actually will consume less, because they have a different view on life and different view of to the world. But older generations, and by older generations that also is me, although I'm not I'm not old, but people who already have, you know, their lifestyle, yeah, it's hard to change it. And he was very cynical and says that people will consume less when older people die, which might be the case indeed, that our children have different approach towards consuming, and then maybe then the change will come. But what comes to international partnerships or international cooperation, actually this is a very painful topic, because all the richer world is looking at Africa right now, or are looking at Asia, and basically, well, we have already invented Africa with our companies, but Europe wants to do it even more than we are doing now. And this talk about international cooperation, it's, I would say, a green lie, because it's more like reaching to new markets. And now we can look at the SDG number 1, which is poverty, which is about poverty. Or when we look at number 10, which is inequalities. This is, it's a hard issue, but the problem is that people live in poverty and in inequalities because we, as a richer part of the world, we have pulled out the resources from them. We are taking their resources to keep up our everyday life, let's say. And now, when we are talking about international cooperation, it's important that it will not continue as a one-way, cooperation like has been so far, but it's two ways or multi-ways cooperation, and that is very hard to achieve because different parts of cooperation have different goals and different motivation. And I think the inequalities, number one thing to do, inequalities, and to reduce the power is to pull out. Let's pull out from Africa, because that means that we stop taking out their resources. I love Africa because Estonia and European Union has the new African strategy, which makes me very angry from time to time. But when we are talking about Africa, who owns the land in Africa? Let's be politically incorrect and say white man does, yeah? Who owns the companies in Africa? White man does. And the problem is that now that we have used almost all our resources here in Europe and also partly in Asia, we are reaching out to more new resources in Africa. But actually, this means that it's very dangerous the game to play, because that could reduce, not reduce inequalities, but increase inequalities and increase poverty, because the system is always on our side. It always has been on our side. And it's like a good question at what would happen if we pull out from these poorer areas or poorer countries? What happens? Who will lose? Our narrative is that they will lose because all the good that has they ever have is because of us. But that might not be a truth. Oh, something is mentioned in the chat box. Making money is not a crime. Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I think that the point wasn't to, it was mostly the quote that came from Greta Thunberg, and thanks Merle for bringing that out. I guess that if we have controversial and different opinions, is not the place to let that blossom, but keep the most important things of her words. Sorry for interrupting.
Sure, but it is a complex topic. So it's okay to have different opinions and as well. And yeah, that is the situation we are in today. That it's a difficult situation. And if we can continue with the narrative of economic growth, then we keep doing, or we keep feeding the system. Actually, it's kind of like development aid towards poorer countries. It's like it was calculated a few years ago that for every dollar we give to development countries, by us, I mean European Union and USA, for every dollar we are donating with development aid, we are pulling out $10 with our companies. So my point with this is that basically the picture we are looking at is beautiful, but if we don't change the system, we may keep looking at the picture, but nothing changes. I will check the chat box again. Okay, it's the same discussion going on there. Okay.
But I would like slowly to start closing this event and to start initially to take action about this, if you allow me, and to target SDG number 3 in our group today, good health and well-being. And the way that we can do it is by sharing some happiness and positive messages with each other. We can nurture ourselves by sharing some virtual sugar treats. So I'm sending you a form in the chat where you can leave a positive note to your fellow Green Month participants, organizers, or panelists regarding to appreciate someone's input in the session or an idea that they have shared, or the quality of the presence in the group and chat that was burning today. And I'm very happy for your engagement. Remember just to specify who was the message for, but you can keep also your message anonymous, so you can just spread happiness without mentioning who you are. And yeah, let's close with that happy message from my side. And if you would like to stay a little bit more, I would like to close it with a great thank you for being today here, and especially great thank you for Agne to make this amazing presentation. And if you would like to share what was the main takeaway of you for this session, we will still be here. We will still be able to listen to you. So just unmute yourself and pop out, and please share with us what was your main takeaway.
Can I start? So for me, the main takeaway was that there is a lot to change in my personal behavior.
Thank you, Erle. And I'm sure you will do a great change, as you always do, and you are a change maker. And as I wrote in the chat, sorry for running out of time, but it's great that you'll be here. So who wants to be next? It's my time to delegate people, so Dietmar.
Good afternoon. Yeah, for me, the main message is that I think the SDGs are not an ideology. So there's a lot of debate, and we saw a lot of debate also here. And so I think everybody can contribute, and I think it's not exactly defined what we can do, but it's defined that we have to do something because a lot is on stake. And yeah, thank you very much.
That's a great point to hear. Thank you. Merle?
I don't know if I can say if there was a main takeaway for me, like if there was one thing I could point out. I always really enjoy participating in such little seminars. I am really glad that despite the COVID situation, we are able to do that. And we are, I'm really glad that you've organized this Green Month event. So yeah, my takeaway is only positive.
That's great to hear. And even a smile, for me, it's a very good feedback and a nice way to say goodbye. I will move to Leon. So people who have your cameras on, you're my victims now.
I would just like to thank Madeleine, because Madeleine is a friend of mine from my EVS in Germany. And she actually said to me about this little seminar, and I'm so grateful to her and for organization of this webinar as well. I would say for me, the great takeaway actually was understanding what sustainable development definition is, like the balance between social economy and ecology in these three areas, like to have a different view of these three things together. And second takeaway I could say for me was like these four like questions: knowledge, opportunities, motivation, and courage. So we know all of these 17 written things that since 5 years nothing has been done, but it's up to us and up to people that we are surrounded to know, to get educated, to make opportunities, and to get and stay motivated, and finally to have a courage and stay things clearly and loudly and fight for the things. If we just wait, no change. That's for me. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And you always warm my heart when I meet volunteers, because I have been a former volunteer as well. So we're like the EVS family here. And I would like to move to Xenia.
What I actually realized as I was trying to identify how, like, with which goals, which goals do my actions relate to, I couldn't really put like, okay, let's say I like to cycle. I prefer like cycling to somewhere, like using my bike, but I couldn't really identify which goal does it like help with. And also, like, I was vegan for a long time, but I was like, okay, but which goal is it? Like, is it on this topic or something else? And I also realized how important it is that governments do something. Well, I already knew that, but it doesn't really, okay, it matters what we do in our everyday life, but as long as there are not any big steps going to any direction, yeah, the future will not be that bright. So I guess there are like big changes that have to be done. Yeah, so that would be mine.
Thank you very much for sharing it, and I can totally relate that all the goals are so interconnected. So basically, sometimes you do things and you don't know where exactly you put it. So you're like, yes, I'm doing a little bit of a target from number 16 and a little bit of number 1. You know, not all, but some letters. I address that also, and I would like to move to Sale, who is also from the same organization as Agne, if I'm not mistaken. So I would like to hear also from you.
Hi, yes. Hello. As I work with SDGs in my daily work, I came like as a open listener. And I think I have to say that SDGs remain to be a complex topic in the society. And I'm sure we all gained some new knowledge from the seminar. And I hope we can all use this knowledge to raise the awareness on SDGs among the people around us. So we can kind of all advocate for a more sustainable future, which also emphasizes the SDG 17 partnerships, because we all know the saying that going together gets us further. So I would just leave that here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sale, for your contribution, and continue advocating and continue the great work. I see that Andrei has written in the chat that it's a difficult task to collect data collections from states, especially in developing world. And last but not least is Anu from the participants, if you would like to add something.
Yes. First of all, thank you for the seminar, and I'm especially happy because I have these really practical questions, how to also like give something from my side to the society in terms of awareness raising, and I will contact Agne about these questions, and maybe I can continue working, because I'm working in the public sector in the city government, and I also started lately this Liigun Rattaga campaign from the NGO, and as it's like a very beginning at the moment, so I want to like really build the strategy also around the SDGs to do it in the kind of right way since the very beginning, and involve the SDGs that are mostly connected with this action. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna, and thanks for sharing also the links, and I will try to include them in the follow-up email that I will send you, because I think that they're quite nice campaigns as well, and thank you for being here. And the celebrity of our today's event is Agne, so some closing words from you as well.
Oh, thank you guys, it was lovely. And my takeaway is that it's always so interesting to talk about the SDGs with different people, because all people are so different, and different approaches and different stories. And today's let's say group dynamic was totally different compared to previous trainings, and all the ideas. And I'm just really grateful. Yeah, and hopefully you will take some ideas with you to the weekend, and then after that. And you're always welcome to write me or to my colleagues. Thanks.
Thank you very much for being with us and give all this amazing information and insights, and bring everybody engaged to share and see what else we can do. And I hope for the best. And thank you very much. I will, Leon, I will share the contact of Agne, so you can reach out her. Perfect. Just bear with me a little bit with time, but I will send everything. Thank you. Have a lovely evening, and thanks for staying on Friday evening with us. See ya.
Thank you.